what is God trying to do? This system was not in his will. What's happening in the country, that is not in his will. How are we going to make a change?
We cannot look towards a solution unless we identify that there is a problem. Hey everyone, welcome to The Cole Life. Today we just want to get right to it. The murder of George Floyd has deeply impacted society, especially in American culture, but even around the world, and it's caused a lot of uproar, a lot of revolution, if you will, and some good and some bad. So
a lot of pain for a lot of people. And today we just want to talk about it. We want to talk about our feelings, how it impacts us, our family, how it impacts those around us, and then from different perspectives, from an African American perspective and from a European American perspective, what are we feeling? What have we done to change over time and to understand one another, and just how we feel about how things are being handled in society. So before we get into it, please like, comment, subscribe on our channel. We'd love for you to join our family, engage with us in these types of topics, but also just follow our family around. Let's get into it. These past couple of weeks have been very hard. I feel like it's been very hard for African Americans just in general, because it wasn't just George Floyd, it was Ahmaud, it was, the Amy Cooper situation. It was just so many things that
so quickly and back to back too,
that compiled together where we're like, what in the world? Why hasn't this changed? Why aren't we changed? And for us, it was just a sorrowful moment. Like it was, I felt saddened, I felt hurt, I felt painful. But the crazy thing is, I feel like people don't realize that every time situations like this happen, we feel pain. I would say for me personally, and the Black people that are around me, they feel pain, because it's a constant reminder that there's no change. And now us being parents, we have to look at our child knowing that society will see her as Black, and we have to know how to protect her when we feel like the system is not protecting her, when the country that we live in is not protecting her. And we have to have those conversations like, how are we going to combat this? How are we going to fight this? What more can we do than we already haven't done? So, and I will also say for me personally that I really felt that #tired. I felt that I was exhausted from hearing the social injustice that's constantly being reminded and constantly being seen in the US, especially considering that I used to work in the Black community. I used to work in my own community for years. I used to go to the panel discussions. I used to be a part of the panel discussions. I went to protest. I spoke about the police brutality in our inner city. All of those things, and still to this day, we are having the same issues. Nothing seemed to be changing. So my exhaustion was real. My tiredness was real.
I think we went through a period of, we didn't even post on social media about any of our feelings on any of our platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
In the beginning.
For probably the first week.
I would say the first couple days. Yeah.
Okay, for the first few days, because I think there was just a grieving moment where, more so for Lexi even than myself, but definitely for me too, because it's like, you have the feeling of tiredness, you have the feeling of almost hopelessness, and feeling like we've done this, we've been down this road. I can speak for myself, and Lexi and I have gone to protests in the past, and we have been a part of this. This is a part of our lifestyle. This is not something that is a wave or a fad for us. This is something that we combat on a daily basis. And so immersing ourselves into that on a daily, this was one of those things for me that I hadn't really felt hopelessness before regarding this topic. It's always been, when something happens, I respond, and I respond hard. Let's go do this. Let's do this. We can change. Let's start talking to people. Let's do it. And I think when this happened, there was a moment of sadness that I hadn't really experienced before, because this is just the umpteenth case of this happening. And it felt like just an overwhelming burden where I had to take a couple days and process and ask God, what the heck? It was hard.
Changed?
It was hard because we've done the protests, we've done this, we've done. What I didn't want is to have the same thing happen again. And it felt like, I was telling Lexi, it felt like white supremacy was looking at the protests and going, okay, let them protest, let them run around, let them post on their social media platforms, give it a month, it'll all go away, and we'll be back to normal. Like, that's how I felt like this system of white supremacy was looking at this, as it has done so many times in the past.
And I think when we talk about cases, like, I remember we had the conversation of the Trayvon Martin case.
That was the pivotal moment that changed my whole perspective on things.
Yeah. And you think about those that haven't seen our video, we talk about how we had to have countless of conversations, not just with each other, but with Brian's family, sometimes Brian's extended family. And there would be many times where I would be the only Black person in the room. Yeah. And having to have those conversations almost every time a situation like this happened, it becomes tiring.
You're drained.
And I feel drained. Even when I know that I'm making progress, even when I know, like, Brian's family, if you watch the past video, like, they've come such a long way, being able to change their perspective after, 60 years of them being on this earth. So I know that I'm making change, but it is tiring. It's tiring to talk to people that may not get it. It's tiring to post on social media and feel like there's a fight of understanding with your peers, with your friends, with your coworkers. Maybe all your coworkers are white. Like, it's tiring for us all.
I can imagine knowing how and seeing how tired you were working with my family daily. I can't imagine what African American go through when they have coworkers every single day who don't get it and who are saying things that have racial undertones and saying things that are stereotypical. When you have friends that are doing that, when you have people that you went to school with, when you have, for across the board, right? When you're hearing it on TV and you're seeing it on the new media and the newscast, like, to be constantly surrounded by the reminder that people don't get it on a daily basis, that's something that I can't imagine the type of weight that puts on people.
It's hard. It's hard, and I think people were waiting for a response immediately, whether it be from Black people or white people. And, those are two different types of responses. But for Black people, I felt that we were taking our time. Mm-hmm. It's okay if some people were ready to post immediately. Some people were ready to, go rah-rah. And some of us were like, this is sad. This is a grievance. It felt like it was a funeral. Mm-hmm. Like, you needed some time just to feel your emotions. The first thing I did was talk to my family, talk to my brothers, see how they're doing, talk to my cousins, talk to my Black male friends. Like, how are y'all handling this? What do you need from me? Do you need me to come over? Do you just need me to chill? And that, I feel like that is a platform that's showing that you're helping and you're connected with the people. It's personal to you versus you going out and shouting on the rooftops on social media first. That's my opinion. And I feel that for the people that are white, that are around Black people, what I care about more than you posting on social media is you checking on your Black friends and your Black family before you do that. That's more important to me.
And I think that we've just adopted that mentality across the board. Yes, we post on social media. Obviously, we're talking about on this platform. Mm-hmm. You all can look at the number of videos that we have posted in the past on racial conversations, the difficulties that we had to get through and overcome in our relationship regarding race or ethnicity, because we don't like saying race. But when you look at that, we've always adopted a mentality of having the personal conversations on a daily basis with those around you and making change from a higher level, but also making change on a grassroots, boots on the ground level at the same time. It has to be a multi-layered, multifaceted approach if we're going to create change. Yeah,
and our platform is not just to post our family and just share our life. It is to have conversation. If you've seen all, more than like 3 of our videos, you've seen us talk about topics where we want to hear from you. We want to talk. We want to have a conversation about, how do you feel about this topic? Do you think this versus this? Like, this is not just like watch our life and be happy. No, we want this to be a community where we can talk, we can have conversation, we can build momentum of change, we can do all of those things. It's more than that for us.
Someone actually commented on our recent post, sharing our viewpoint, and they said, you're a family channel. We don't want to hear, you're not a political channel. We don't want to hear your opinions on this. And it's so funny to me because if you look at, number one, the past videos that we've made, there is so much more that we discuss than
Yeah.
just showing cute baby pictures or showing date nights, which are great. Those aspects are a part of us, and we want you guys to be involved in that dynamic. But we will never, ever fail to voice our opinions very strongly about injustices, inequalities, things that are tragedies around the world, how we view it, and how it affects us. We will never remain silent. So,
and you don't, and the stuff that is political like this, it's personal.
Very.
Like, it's very personal.
That is a part
There
of
were
our
times
family.
there were times throughout this week where we just cried. Like, because this is real for us. This is the world that we live in. This is the country that we live in. And knowing that the system is working, the system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, which is not include us, not include me, not include our daughter, not include my brothers. All of that is showing that this system was built to be a consistent reminder that we are not human. We are not the same. That's real for us. How do we change that? Why does my daughter have to go through that? To think that that's not related to us is so crazy to me. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
I would like to share a little bit of my story of my progression in the racial conversation over time. So I think it gives some understanding into the white perspective and what happens with white people's thought processes and mindsets when it comes to this conversation. I know you guys see me now, and it seems like I get it now. I was not that way all the time. My story, as most of you know, or some of you know, I grew up in an African-American environment. I grew up in an African-American church. That's where I spent most of my time. I had majority of my friends were African-American or just of other cultures as well across the board. So you would think growing up in that I would get it. That I would understand the black struggle. I'd understand black oppression. I'd understand the inequalities across the board and where things stem from and why. And you would think that, but even being surrounded in that environment, no one ever took the time. None of my friends did. None of their parents did to take the time to sit me down and really get me to a place of understanding how this all works together.
And we talked about even, Brian had friends that he would say something or do something and nobody would really say anything. This was before me.
No one would correct me.
Yeah.
So I just kept moving throughout life thinking that my subconscious stereotypes, my implicit biases that I had towards African Americans, even though most of my friends were black, even though I knew a lot of black people, I still had stereotypes. Yeah. I still had thought process. I still didn't even understand the concept of white privilege. And I didn't think things were that unfair or that unequal. So getting to that place, I would look at, I'll give you an example. I would look at the concept of crime rates and incarceration rates of the African American population versus white population from a percentage standpoint. And I would say, well, more black people are in jail because they commit more crimes. More black people are prone to be criminals. Not necessarily because they're black, but because they're in an urban environment and that environment causes XYZ. But the point is, black people are more prone to commit a crime. And I had that subconscious stereotype in my head growing up and even into adulthood through the beginning of college. And it took a lot of difficult interactions and exchanges with Lexi, a lot of very challenging conversations. And what it eventually led up to, especially with Trayvon Martin, is what really, I would say, catapulted the conversation to the forefront, was when that instant occurred. I was at a crossroads in my life, and I could either choose to say, I'm not willing to entertain, to empathize, to try to understand, to listen to any other perspective other than the one I have. And I'm going to keep going down this path that I'm going on, believing that I'm right. Or I'm going to choose, because I love someone, to take the time to listen, to empathize, to seek to understand, and accept the fact that it's possible that my entire life I've been viewing this whole thing the wrong way. And that is a moment that is very difficult for a European American white person to come to grips with. That it's possible that my entire life I have been seeing things through the improper, incorrect lens. That I have not been open to empathize, and that there actually is a serious problem and that I may be a part of that problem, and that I am a beneficiary of a system that does not support African American society.
And I think that's hard for any culture to admit that what they've been taught has been completely wrong. And from a African American perspective, having those conversations they're difficult. And I want to make it clear, I don't think that you're like I say, you're supposed to have those conversations, that you feel like you need to have a conversation with every white person about this, because it is hard. Yeah. It can be traumatic, it can be triggering, and the only reason I say that I did it is because I loved the person that I was with. I saw that he was willing to change, and he was willing to work with me, even times where we argued about it. But I do feel that there is an obligation for African Americans to talk to people that they actually care about. There's white people that are your friends, there's white people that are your peers, there's white people that maybe even in your family, and if they're willing to have the conversation, then I think you should. If you don't have to. But if they are willing to, and willing to at least try, there is a duty of you giving it a shot too, because you can change the dynamics. With Brian, I felt that the more that I talked to him, the more he talked to his family, and the more that we were able to have conversations with his family. And now we have this beautiful relationship, which you guys know through our past video.
So any conversation that I have with a white person, almost one of the first questions I ask with them when it's about, the ethnic divide and racial tension and all of that, the first question I ask them is, are you open to really hearing a different perspective? Are you open and willing to potentially even admit that you're wrong with this topic? Yeah. And if they say no, I won't even have the conversation. I'm not going to engage in a debate. Debates don't help people change. Yeah. So if they say they're open and willing, and I can just at least pry their eyes open a little bit, I can then begin to take that same example about incarceration and crime rates. I'd recommend all of my white friends to watch the documentary 13th. Yeah. It discusses how, and it shows throughout history, since like the 60s and 70s, that even though civil rights were granted, even though there seemed to be progression, that policies and laws and procedures were established and put in place to make sure that African Americans were put in jail more often and more times at higher percentages than the white population. That there was a controlling system in place, not just around urban communities, but just around the African American community, specifically in the urban community. And so when you see that, white people look at that perspective and say, more black people are in jail because they commit more crimes, they're thugs, they're criminals.
You're not looking at it from a broader perspective. You're not looking at it from a political stance.
Right.
You're literally being taught what to say to us. You're literally being taught that that's how it is, that's the way it's supposed to be, and that's how I think because that's what I've been taught. You're not doing your research at all.
You're not looking at the cause and the effect of the situation.
Yeah. But if you don't even know the cause, if you don't even know the reason, then you wouldn't know the effect. You just know what you've been told.
Yep. And I think if you look at the education system, if you look at the judicial system, you look at business, and you look at the economy, it's across the board. I mean, why are African Americans, for the exact same crime, for the exact same age of the person, in no previous history, why are they receiving 5 years in jail for marijuana possession when the white boy down the street, who has never had anything done to him, is receiving 3 years probation months voluntary service?
Yeah.
Why is there this disparity and injustice and lack of equality across the board? And we have to start asking ourselves that question, because we cannot look towards a solution unless we identify that there is a problem.
There is a problem, that the system was never built for us, and that to actually fix a system is not really fixing it because it's working. We have to tear it down and rebuild. That's really what we have to do.
The system's working the way it was designed. It was designed to allow white people to stay in a position of power and authority.
Yeah.
That's what
Period.
it is.
But on a bigger scale, how we handle this, how do we get through? What's the solution? I wish that we had the exact answer for what we should do. I think as I can go on and on about how we as Black people, as African Americans, are fighting against each other when we have situations like this where we're trying to figure out the solution, where we're not unified. We have issues just trying to be together because we were built to go against each other, to not be on the same page, to not unify, to not be together. My hope and my prayer is that we come together on a spiritual level, that we are able to pray and hear from God and see what is God trying to do. This system was not in his will. What's happening in the country, that is not in his will. How are we going to make a change? And surprisingly, I do feel that there is some hope in what's happening right now.
Absolutely.
That there is some hope. I do feel that is off the backs of people that have worked their butts off consistently, protesting and fighting over the years, people that have been speaking against this, people that's been in their community focusing on change. So with that, I do believe that the prayer that we should be praying is, what is God's will? What is he trying to do? And just be in the spirit of that. Let's hear from him. We are doing a lot of things in the physical, and we need to move higher. We need to think higher. Hear what God is saying in this moment, because we don't want to miss whatever he's trying to do.
Yeah. And I think my desire would be, I only have certain expectations of those who don't follow Christ.
Yeah.
To understand, to empathize, to show love,
Yeah.
I only have certain expectations. But from the Christian community, to understand that we are a family, we are one body with Christ, one body, regardless of ethnicity, cultural background, differences, diversity, etc. So I implore that not just white people, not just white Christians, Asian Christians, Middle Eastern Christians, Indian Christians, Brazilian Christians, I mean, across the board, seek to understand one another, seek to empathize, seek to not just look at your own viewpoints that you've held your entire life, but be open to being wrong and caring enough about your brother and your sister to take the time to see how you can involve yourself in their world and help make their life better across the board. So my call to Christian pastors, to all believers, is to come together as a one body. We are citizens of the kingdom of heaven. That is the most important thing.
And God built us as one race. We are one race.
Different cultures, different
ethnicities. But we are one race, and God put that together on purpose. We weren't supposed to just not see color. We were supposed to see it and embrace it and be together. So
God was very intentional with the way he designed all of us.
He didn't make no mistakes.
We are sharing our thoughts, our feelings, the impact this has had on us, and our viewpoints on this topic. And it's a heavy one. So we've displayed our call to action. Just know that we love you. Please, again, continue to send out your prayer requests to us. I think we've been a little more intentional about praying for those who are in need right now, both with the quarantine and the deaths of family members and the struggles with that, and now this issue. We want to pray with you. We want to embrace the family that we are. Yeah. So please,
the community
keep sharing.
that we have built. And I would also say, tell us how you're feeling. Like, how has this affected you? Let us know, and let's have a conversation. We love you guys. We appreciate you for listening and just hearing what we have to say, even though it's political.
Have a great week, everyone.
Love you. Bye.